Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. If you are here listening to our show, you will realize that what we do, or what our format for the show is, that we take an individual film, and me and a special guest will come on, and we will critique, analyze, discuss, generally have a conversation about the film, whether it be the actual merits of the film or just, we just enjoy the hell out of that film. Now, that being said, the film we're talking about today can be one of those, or it may not be one of those. We're going to discuss that because at 70 years, celebrating its 70th anniversary, we are talking about Revenge of the Creature from 1955. Now, if you've been listening to our podcast, you'll realize that we did The Creature from the Black Lagoon earlier in the year, and we are going to kind of get through the rest of these films just so that you know our kind of general consensus with them. And to discuss Revenge of the Creature with me, I have Mr. Dave Watkins, who was here previously when we talked about Creature from the Black Lagoon. Thank you, Dave, for returning for the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me back on. Not kicking me off yet. That's good. So.
We don't kick any fans of horror off the show. We love our horror fans who want to discuss these movies. And if for everyone listening to the show, The Creature from the Black Lagoon was something that came up on, I think during our Aquatic Horror Month. And then after doing it there, we kind of just said, why the fuck not? Let's just go ahead and do the other two movies in the franchise. So here we are.
So these Creature from the Black Lagoon movies, there's three of them, and they're kind of considered a trilogy. And these are the last of the Universal monsters, of the original Universal monster movies. And this was like 1955. Most of the other original monsters were like about a decade before this or so, but where they kind of ended their major runs. But this was the kind of the last of the original ones, and that's where we're at with this.
Yeah. And I think that other than the original Dracula, we haven't really touched upon most of the Universal monster movies yet, but we will. This one just happens to be celebrating its 70th anniversary, and we were big fans of The Creature from the Black Lagoon, so we decided to delve deep into this film. I want to actually know when you saw this, since neither you nor I were alive when this movie came out. I would love to know what was your impressions when you first saw this, or when did you actually first see this movie?
So this one's always been a little bit of a struggle for me, I think. I think this is one that I've attempted to watch and didn't make it through several times. But I think probably the first time I saw it all the way through was probably like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But I did have the DVD version that we all got from Walmart or whatever of The Creature from the Black Lagoon set. So I did try to watch it at that point when I first got it. That's been a long time ago, but yeah, I really watched it the whole way through for the first time, maybe a few years ago, and then I guess today and yesterday when I was watching it again.
So the funny thing is, I think me and you actually have a very similar case with this film, because I had never seen this film until the Universal Horror Monsters Legacy DVD collection came out. So that was my first time being able to see this movie. And like you, I think it was like it was right before COVID or something when I got the box. It was when the box set first came out, and I got that.
Well, I got the DVD box set. That one's been out for a lot longer, because I think the Blu-ray one came out before COVID. The DVD one came out in the but maybe 2006 or so, around, maybe I'm thinking it was around 2000 when I bought it anyway. It's probably around 2007 or 8.
So I bought it much later than that then, because I ended up buying all of those Legacy DVD box sets just because I hadn't seen like I hadn't seen like the Dracula sequels, hadn't seen the Creature sequels. I think the only ones I had seen were the Invisible Man and the Frankenstein and the Mummy ones.
All right, and those Invisible Man ones are kind of rough. I really like the first one a lot, but those sequels that's a bit of a struggle for them.
Because James Whale didn't direct that one. He just did the first one and then let other people do the rest of the sequels.
Yeah, the first one's one of my favorites of the Universal Monster ones. It's very, very well directed and written.
Yeah.
But even that second one has Vincent Price in it as the Invisible Man, but it's still kind of not as good as the first one.
they are, and that's one of the reasons why we're talking about this sequel because the sequels to a lot of these great Universal horror movies are not talked about as much as the original film in that franchise. And even with this film, with me, I had seen Creature from the Black Lagoon several times over the course of the last couple decades, a few decades actually. But this one, for everyone listening, I've only ever seen this one twice. I saw it when I got the box set for the Legacy Collection, and I didn't watch it again until we decided to do it for the program. Because like a lot of these Universal horror sequels, it was not one that kind of captured my imagination, or it didn't affect me, or it just never clicked for me, which is unfortunate. But we're going to talk about it. So
Well,
that
yeah, it's not to say that this one does have some pretty good parts to it. I actually really enjoy the first 15 minutes and the last 30 minutes of this film. The parts in the middle, it gets a little draggy, which will go into the different blocks of the film because it is definitely blocked out. Like the first 15 minutes is a return to the Amazon where the first film ended. And this is the same creature, and it's the same creature in all three of the films. But you assume that he died after the events of the first film when he got shot, but
yep.
he's good. He's good to go. He got hit and he's back, and they go and track him. They bring the same captain. He's got a different boat. In the first film it was called Rita, and this one it's called Rita 2.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Because we watched these films so close together, I noticed that too. I made another bit. I said, "This is a Rita 2," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah." Did the boat get destroyed in the first one, or he just? I don't know.
Well, it went through a lot of damage in the first one because they got trapped in the lagoon by the creature and all that type of stuff. But it's just funny that they did the Rita 2 as well.
Yeah. So they got like unlike the third film, this one has one returning character, and this is a really weird thing that they didn't other than the creature. Like the Lucas captain of the boat, who's only in the first 15 minutes, is the only returning character other than the creature from the first film. It's kind of weird the way they didn't bring in any of the other ones they didn't bring back characters, but he's a very recognizable character. He's probably the most recognizable human character from the franchise, and he's quite a guy. The way the guy plays is very good, and he has a conversation on the boat between him, like a scientist, and a guy named Joe, who is kind of like he's kind of a wrangler or kind of which is interesting because Joe's not the main character, but he is a kind of a major supporting character. But it starts off you think he's the main character, but he does come along for the rest of the journey. But he ends up not being the protagonist of the film. But he even says he doesn't have imagination. He admits this, which is kind of an odd thing for someone to be so self-aware of themselves. but he's having this conversation. Him, like Joe, this other doctor who's not really or in the rest of the film, and Lucas are having this conversation where they say he asked them why they're tracking this thing, and where he thinks that it came from, and then they have a scientific explanation that they think might be the reason, and they say it's evolution, and he was trapped in the lagoon and he basically didn't go forward with evolution because he was in this certain kind of pocket of. That's kind of a paraphrase of what they say, and then Lucas says what his opinion is that some kind of demon or monster or something to that nature, which they later kind of mock. But it's kind of an interesting conversation that reminds me. Obviously, Jaws came a lot later, but it is kind of like that scene in Jaws when the three protagonists are on the boat and they have that really awesome conversation.
Oh.
But it is. I mean, it's not as awesome, but it was before that. But it is kind of similar. Just the different points of view talking about what the creature is.
No, that's very interesting you mentioned that, but I think it doesn't come off nearly as well as in Jaws because Captain Lucas is the most interesting of the three characters.
yeah. Well, the doctor guy who's with him, he does have a unique look, and it doesn't show him again really for some reason, but he does seem to have a little bit of a point where he talks about the evolution and things of that nature. I was looking at my notes to see exactly. I wrote paraphrasing, but he just says that the beast exists outside of evolution. That's what Lucas says. But then what do you think as far as what we've seen, what happens in the films? What do you think it is a scientific explanation, or do you think it's more of something along the lines of what the Lucas character thinks.
Well, it's very funny because for me, when I rewatched all three movies, I just kind of, it could be my naivety, but I always considered the creature to be just a different creature each movie. They killed it at the end of each movie. But it's interesting that the way you paraphrase it is like at the end of each movie, they just kind of knock him out for a while, and then of course he'll come back again. Because if that is true, then then the creature itself, the reason why he goes after the females in these films is because he's desperate to procreate and to keep his species going. That would, because that's the only thing I didn't like about the whole concept. Like the creature becomes enamored with each single only female in the entire movie, and that's what drives him. And I'm like, that guy worked great for the first film, but really, you don't need to keep repeating it in each film, to be honest.
But I think though what you said though makes sense that he is looking to reproduce, and that's where else, how else is he going to do it? There's not a female creature, so
No,
I mean,
and that makes much more sense why, like in the first film and the second film, he actually in the third film as well, the creature watches the female character for a long time before actually doing anything.
yeah, he's a stalker.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it also could be like a mating ritual to underwater creatures. They have to
Yeah,
prove themselves and stuff. It depends on how you look at it. To be honest with you, it really does. Uh,
sure, yeah. I mean, we obviously can't. We can try to emphasize with this creature, but this creature does get a lot more empathy in this one, and it's makes the way he's in the second act of the film when he's imprisoned in kind of an aquarium, like definitely makes the human characters look very bad in that part of the film, and you feel a lot of pity for the creature during that part.
Well, I feel a lot of pity for the creature to begin with. I mean, literally, they put dynamite in the freaking lagoon to raise them up from the bottom, knowing that they're going to kill most of what comes up from the freaking
Yeah.
lake. Like they don't just put one dynamite; they put a whole bunch of dynamite in this.
Yeah. Yeah, and even the captain's like thinking his boat's about to get blown up, and he's like telling them not to do it, and they just don't
Yeah,
give a shit. They're just like, we're gonna do it anyway.
they have despite the fact that these are scientists, they have a complete disregard to nature and what they're destroying to capture the creature. You know,
Well, not all of them are scientists. The Joe's character is not a
no,
scientist, and
no, he's a wrangler.
he's a wrangler, and the goal is to get him to capture him, bring him back to the aquarium to show him off so they can make money. That's the goal of the trip to the Amazon in the first like 15 minutes of the film.
Yeah, which is such an odd concept for scientists. Because I mean, that's the whole reason why we get the other scientists. Ferguson shows up. He hears the story about them capturing the creature, and of course, the first thing he wants to do is go out there and study it. You know, he wants to go out
Right.
there and study it, kind of like a little bit of what the female character, what's her name, Helen. I
Yeah,
can't remember Helen.
his first name's Cleet, like Cleet Ferguson, and he's the protagonist essentially once he becomes involved. But the Helen character does get some development, pretty good for the most part. There's some the actor John Agar that plays Ferguson he was in some westerns with
Mhm.
John Wayne, so, and the Sands of Iwo Jima, which was a war film, which I saw recently. He plays one of the main characters in that. But that character is really odd to me, but it plays true to a scientist character where he doesn't seem he's really when he talks a lot of times he almost talks like this. He's like, "Okay, Helen, we're gonna go out here and we're gonna go and we're gonna stab this fish and we're gonna do that." Yeah, and it almost sounds like a narration sometimes. I mean, clearly it's like especially when underwater and they have some kind of new technology in the aquarium where they can talk through something in their throats, but there's like no inflection to a lot of what he's saying. It just very sometimes, and there's actually some pretty hilarious the way that he acts in general throughout, and he like that. What's the other character? Joe character.
Yeah.
There's a
So
pretty
hey,
hilarious. Yeah, they try to do like a kind of a triangle thing between the three characters, and he's like at one point he's trying to ask her out and he's not being very smooth with it, and Joe comes up being even less smooth, and he grabs her arm. He's like, "Hey, why don't we go out and get a drink?" He
Yeah.
grabs her arm and pulls her. It's like, what are you guys doing?
I kind of think during the time period when this was being made in the 50s, that was like a norm of some type, because that was very similar to what happens in the third film in this franchise. And of course, if I could remember the other 50s horror films, I would think that was very similar, where there would be like to create tension within the dynamic of the male and females. There would always be multiple males vying for the attention of the single
Oh
female.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that I mean, I think it works to create tension. I'm not saying that. I just think it's very odd the way
They
how
come
that
out.
they yeah, but especially that one scene when all three of them in it for the first time, and
Yeah.
the joke, and then one guy he's almost like pulling, and one guy kind of pulling her. He's like, "Oh yeah, we were just talking," and then the Joe guy like grabs her arm and tries to pull him closer to him, and it's just like damn, you guys are like really getting aggressive. She'd probably pick neither one of you the way you're acting, you know what I'm saying?
I think they fixed that in the third film, where the so-called suitor isn't so much as a suitor, uh,
Yeah.
because the main female character is married.
Right, yeah, that's a very weird dynamic in the third one that I guess we'll talk about when we get to the third one. But yeah, but it is a different dynamic, and I was kind of like, they did the same kind of dynamic in the first film, and it was a lot better done.
Mhm.
But the other guy he wasn't her love interest, he was her boss, but there was still somewhat of a tension between the three characters. But here it's almost like it doesn't really translate as well here. But I do think it's interesting the way it starts out with a Joe character as seeming he's the main character, then it switches to the other guy
Mm.
and Helen, and then Joe's still kind of in there, but and the character eventually dies at the beginning of the third act, which is a pretty cool thing to happen for a character who starts off as you were thinking he's the main character that gets, but you don't think he's the main character by the time he dies though.
No, and that's, you bring up a really odd situation in the movie, because he's the most I guess he's the most dynamic character in there. He's the one jumping into the tank with the
Yeah.
creature when they transfer
Most
him over.
heroic character. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And then of course, unfortunately for him, he dies out by the
Yeah.
creature's hand. I don't know if that's a comeuppance type of thing, but it makes for a very interesting film, because you're not expecting him to die in this film. You know.
Or at least not that early, before the climax. It was but that's then they have him in that tank in this aquarium for like a really long period of time in the film. It seems like and he's chained up, and it cuts back and forth between they'll go down there and mess with him some, and they'll dive down there, and then but it's kind of an interesting exploration of seeing people come to this aquarium to see, and of aquariums and even zoos and things of that nature, how inhumane they are, and it's kind of a takeoff of that
Yeah.
that you do see in it, which if you look more into that, zoos and aquariums, there's a lot of inhumanity done to the fish and the animals in those
Well,
places.
in this film, it's even much more interesting, because the creature is chained up at the bottom, and he's actually, they have that I want to say, call it a cattle prod, to try and get them to do what they want
Yeah.
them to do. And then he's being shown off to to people as all this can happen. It's not like it's closed off. People can watch them do this to this creature.
You're right, right.
No
Yeah.
wonder he's mad.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. But yeah, but it's like kind of weird that they assume, and luckily they assumed correctly, that he's okay being underwater most of the time, because you would think he's able to jump out and be out of the water briefly, but he has to jump up and the chain's kind of dragging him back down. So luckily for them and the creature, he's able to survive underwater for like a long period of time and not have to be out. Apparently, I don't know how they know it, but apparently he can only be out of the water like a short period of time before it affects him in a bad way. Kind of like a catfish, I guess. Those walking catfish that come out of the water.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I do think it was interesting when I was watching this film, that and Helen makes mention of this, that when the creature is still unconscious and he's in the tank before they put him in the main tank. Joe is walking around trying to get the water to go through his gills and trying to get him to what do you call it? Be revived back again to come out of his coma.
Yeah.
And she's making mention that this is what they do for sharks and other type of aquatic life. So they're assuming that this half man, half sea creature monster is nothing more than another fish.
Right. While that's going on, they got all these like news people there and all these people watching it. So if they're lucky that they don't fail at that, because they would have looked really ridiculous. But what do you think that's true about reviving sharks that way? I guess it probably is.
I don't know, but the first movie I thought about when they did that was Jaws 3D. They do a very similar thing in Jaws 3D with the shark right before.
It's got to be true then. No, they wouldn't put it. They wouldn't just keep putting it in movies if so. There's gonna be some sense of truth to
it. And that's, I think Jaws 3D was in the '80s, so that's like 30 years after this movie, and they're still using that technique.
Yeah. Well, I guess if it works, it works. So
yeah, and the thing is that was the first thing it reminded me of, because it was Jaws 3D when I saw it. Because like I said, I've only seen the movie twice, and I had completely forgotten the scene was in there. But it was interesting for me because I had forgotten the aspect that they're showing this Seaman off to the rest of the Gillman off to the public as though he's nothing but a coming attraction, sort of like what they did with Kong and King Kong. By the end of the movie, they just want to show him off and make a profit. This seems to be, and King Kong was 33 and this was 55. I'm still thinking that people still went to carnivals, freaks carnivals, and went to see the strange people in those type of atmospheres just because it was different and cool and shit. And so that kind of plays into this as well. I can't remember when Freaks was made.
I believe it was 30 something, if I'm not mistaken. It was definitely a lot earlier than this.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that same mentality still plays until we get to, of course, Jurassic Park, where we're genetically engineering fucking dinosaurs to show off to people in parks.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely is. It is an aquarium, so there's other. It's called an ocean harbor, ocean ranium or something like that. But it's got other fish there, but it definitely is kind of a little bit of a freak show with him. And they even have a poster of him, have a stand-up poster. Somehow they're able to get a picture of him and put it on a stand-up poster.
Well, and they also tell people when he's open for public that don't stay too long, let everyone get through.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and here's how they do it: they do not stay too long. Other people need to get through. So spend 2 minutes and then go on to the next, or whatever they say. But that's how they say it. It's all corny sounding.
Well, it's funny because the thing I noticed most about this film and its sequel is that they have a complete disrespect and lack of empathy for the creature, and so it almost makes the audience want to care more about the creature than it does the people who are harming him and or mistreating him. More so in the third one, but this one also, because of the way he's chained up and everything like that. I can definitely see that Guillermo del Toro was influenced by that whole aspect when he did The Shape of Water.
Right, and that's what I think we talked about that when we talked about the first one. But The Shape of Water really takes a lot from this film, not the first film. This is almost like a remake of this film in a way.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. You mentioned it before when we talked about it, but I didn't remember this movie, so I couldn't agree or disagree with you.
Yeah. But I mean, Shape of Water is a lot more entertaining film, but the thing is, this one came first, so you can't. And same thing with Jaws. Is like you could say Jaws is it's a more watchable movie, but a lot of times something like this has to come first for those other things to happen.
Yeah.
But not to say there's a lot of cool stuff in this film. It's just some parts are a little, especially the pacing is a little slow, and I wasn't that interested in the human characters in this one. especially like the Cleet Ferguson doctor character and his interest in the Helen, and they're kind of like trying. Like I don't feel the chemistry between those two characters, even though I really like her performance. Laurie Nelson plays her, but I do like her performance. I just did not feel I didn't feel the chemistry between the two.
No, no, I agree with you. I think that was a problem I had for the second one and third one. I think it works much better for the first movie, but in this film, I think because they make Ferguson's character so like a matter of fact, I have a job to do, I have 2 weeks to do it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so monotone in his delivery for most of the time. He seems
yeah.
less
Yeah.
interesting as a romantic foil for her, as opposed to say Joe, who seems the more dynamic one.
He
Um,
does yeah, but the professor character, he both him and Joe, because of the way the script's written, they're both very self-aware of how they are, and they say it out loud. They say it themselves out loud how they are, and then they do that. But he does kind of develop a little bit. The Cleet character does start to become more flirty and a little more open with her as it goes on, and he does. But yeah, but like there's some parts near the end I don't want to talk about quite yet that I think are quite hilarious that he does, and but a lot of it is true to a character like this. It's almost like a an OCD type of character in a way, or someone on the autism spectrum who's going to be hyper focused on one thing, and he has to kind of split his attention between that and her, and then when it gets to later on when after I guess I just go ahead and talk about the first one just because it's hard not to talk about it. But it's after. Well, let's talk. We'll come back to it though. But I want to talk about what happens when he escapes. But there was two things I want to point out first that we
okay.
hadn't talked about. One's this, like the first one, was shot in 3D, and I've never seen it in 3D. But I'm sure it looks a lot better in 3D because there are a lot of underwater water sequences in it.
Mhm.
And the second one, there is a cameo or the very first appearance by Clint Eastwood in a film, and he has a few lines of dialogue when you first see him.
Yes, I had forgotten he was in this movie. It's one of those things that but because I've only seen the movie twice now, I keep forgetting, and it's quite hilarious because
Yeah,
he's a lab assistant who's I had 3 rats and there was a cat in the cage, but now I only have 2 rats. And I can't remember if I fed the cat or not. And he looks in his pocket, and that's where the other rat is. And of course, you
yeah,
look on his face, and it's like, how did the rat get in there?
yeah,
Clint Eastwood's look at that
yeah,
point is priceless. I was like,
yeah. I mean, he's pretty good in that scene, and it's cool he got dialogue, but it does I don't get it. It's just got to give a little flavor to the lab. I guess that's the
lab.
whole point, but it doesn't add anything. But I guess it gives a little bit of flavor. The film's short to begin with; it's an hour and 21 minutes, so it doesn't
Mhm.
hurt it. But it is sort of a character that looks kind of interesting, and then you don't get to see him again.
Yeah, yeah. And you spend a little bit, you have like a scene with the guy, and he
Yeah,
just never comes back. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
that whole lab is there for like, what, 5, 6 minutes? It
Yeah, you
just
see, there's like a monkey in there too.
There's
Yeah,
oh, that's
yeah,
right. The monkey sequence that
yeah,
goes with it. So there's a monkey sequence at first with a female character that
yeah,
is she going to be the main female character? Is who's you know?
yeah. Yeah, I think that isn't Clint Eastwood's character's like talking to her, isn't he? And he doesn't even talk to the main character, I don't think.
I can't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's talking to her, and then it just like cuts to the other guy
No,
because yeah,
I can't remember. Yeah, I remember that. The monkey scene because I had forgotten it, and I was like, "Oh, is this the main woman character?" I can't remember. It's a good thing I'm rewatching this movie now. And it that whole scene, like you said, with the Clint Eastwood, it kind of has these like you were giving flavor to the lab, but none of these characters ever show up again. So
yeah, yeah. Kind of like in the opening when you had that other doctor character on that first safari that you don't see him again, I don't think. But
yeah, that's right. You just see
yeah,
Joe again.
yeah.
Yeah, you
But
would have at least thought that that scientist, that professor, would have been there at the ocean place to see the creature being transferred over, but no, no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But they so what happens? Eventually the creature gets loose, kills Joe, and there's a pandemonium scene. of him getting out. That's really good scene, and that's really where it picks up a lot. He gets out and he's grabbing people, throwing them into the water, the aquarium, and there's people running. And he spares a little girl. Little girl's crying. He thinks about. He's like, I'm gonna eat that girl. I guess not. Her mom comes and saves her. and, and there's even like a shot of the cardboard stand up of the creature, and someone knocks it over. It's really cool sequence.
It is, and because it's the towards the final act of the movie, they make the movie more dynamic. Because in the second act, you're mostly seeing the creature locked up at the bottom of the freaking tank.
Yeah.
So now they get to let loose with the creature, who eventually ends up, I think, now because I'm making sure I'm trying not to forget.
Yeah.
He ends up kidnapping the Helen character. This is the part where I always hate in these movies, where that when the creature actually gets to the female character, the female character then becomes nothing but a screaming Mimi, just creature, creature, like, oh my god. You did so good the first 2/3 of the movie establishing this. Either she's a scientist who can hold her own, or in the third movie she can shoot guns and pretty damn accurate to the screaming creature, creature. I'm like, oh man.
Well, I want to talk about a little bit before she gets kidnapped, but I do want to mention that he does kidnap her and brings her into the water, and how she does not drown, because he does not know that she can't breathe. You would think he would just drown her by mistake.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point, because he keeps putting her on land, and then he goes back to the water, and then he comes back.
Yeah, I guess he knows, but yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't thought about that. Yeah, you're right, because up until that point, every time the creature sees her, she's underwater with all that gear, so she's breathing in his eyes, probably breathing like normal, just with gear on.
Right. So, but here's what happens in between. So he escapes, goes into the ocean, and so Joe's dead. Some other people are dead, and so the main character and the girl, Cleton Helen, decide to go out on a date or whatever in between. Like they don't care that much that Joe died, even though he was kind of Cleet's friend in a way, even though he doesn't seem like he really likes him very much. But he's more. But it's like a part when they're at her house and they've got a dog, and the dog runs out there, and the creature kills it,
mm-hmm.
and then it's like they don't find the dog apparently, because the next day they're out on a boat. It's daylight. And she's all like, I just can't stop thinking about. I think the dog's name is maybe Charlie or something. I can't stop thinking about Chris. Yeah. So I can't stop thinking about Chris. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, let's just have a good time and focus on having a good time.
Yeah, the dog will be back.
Yeah. And it's like how much do they look for the dog? I mean, the dog's laying there dead in the bushes. Did they even look for the dog? How hard could it have been to find it?
Logic. Oh my god! Why do you have to bring logic into these movies?
I don't know, man. Because I sit here and think about that, just cracking up about it. I'm like, I'm just thinking, like, what was the process of trying to find the dog? Like, Chris, oh, he's gone. I don't know where he went.
No, I believe that was pretty much it. She yelled out. She couldn't find him, so Ferguson tells her, "Oh, well, he'll come back when he's ready. Yeah. He'll be back when you get back home."
Yeah.
But then, of course, they go out on the boat and have a good time swimming.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, here's the way the scene should have been written.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, to make him more likable, it's like she could be talking about Chris and he'd be a little compassionate about it, and then she should have said, "You know what? Let's just have a good time. He'll be all right." Instead of him saying, "Don't even worry about that dog." Because it's like, you don't tell somebody to stop worrying, and they don't just stop worrying. It's like, I mean, I know if any of my dogs are missing, I would be out looking for them. I wouldn't be out on the boat.
Oh yeah, well, you're right, because she mentions Chris as being a stray that kind of just she picked up and just kind of stays with her, and like it's her best friend.
Yeah.
And you're right. That reaction, I didn't think about that till you mentioned that. Oh my god, that reaction's so odd.
Well, it's another one of those character beats for him where he's just like completely oblivious to emotions and things of that nature, and he's just like doesn't get it, and luckily she's okay with it. But, yeah. But he tries to talk to her about how she's like that too. Like she's got a scientific mind, but she's actually got more of a she got a scientific mind, but she also has that empathetic mind as well.
Mm.
Unlike him, where he's very, very focused on whatever task is in front of him, whether it be them having a fun time on the boat or trying to do whatever scientific research he's trying to do.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. Uh, Jesus. Next time I watch this movie, I'm gonna have a different idea of everything when I watch it. But
I got one other thing about before he gets gets kidnapped. Another hilarious thing that this character does.
okay.
Like he has her out on this pier or whatever, and he starts like talking to her, and then he also sort of recites like a poem, and he's like, I memorized a poem, and he like does it, and then instead of waiting for her to be impressed or react to it, he like leans in and starts kissing her instead of like because that would be like you would say the poem, and then he doesn't even know if she's impressed with it. He just like I did it, I memorized the poem, I get a kiss now.
Oh my God, dude. You're not. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the only thing we can attribute to this is that the time period in which the movie was made, which is why it's interesting to talk about these movies, especially one removed by 70 years. Like that's almost twice as old as I am.
But still, at any extent, if you look at films that were directed, like I'm not to say this is badly directed. The same director did this that did the first one, but I just think that was a bad decision, whether it was by the actor or by the director, because it's like he could read the poem. It's cheesy, but he reads the poem, and then you just let her have the reaction. You let her come to him. You don't. He doesn't go to her at that point. It just doesn't make sense to me. I just think it's a bad decision for is a bad acting and directing decision for that. So it's
bad acting and directing. It's just bad all over. It's just bad.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who made this. I would assume that the director did, but it could have been like sometimes as an actor you get caught up in it, and he's really wanting to kiss her, so he's instead of waiting for her to come, he's just like, I'm doing it. I'm going for it.
Yeah. Or, this was, I can't remember when the studio system started to be in decline, but also, a lot of these directors are hired guns for these studio pictures as well, and they just direct what they're given.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So,
but that's when she gets kidnapped right there. It's like he's out in the pier doing the poem, and then he comes out and gets her, and he's like, Helen. And she's like, ah!
Yeah, that's when that scene comes in. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I guess this has become a pet peeve of mine as I get older, watching some of these older films. And I know it's bad of me to think of this because that was such a huge trope back in that time period where the female would always just do these loud screams whenever they saw the monster, and there were very, 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 very few strong female characters who would actually fight back in what you would assume would be a normal reaction, not just standing there with their hands up in the air screaming.
Yeah, but that creature, those very dangerous creature, he's got those claws. He could kill her pretty quick. So luckily he puts her in the water and drowns her, and then after that he's carrying her around so she stops screaming.
Well, that's the thing. That's the funny thing is he takes her in the water. She doesn't drown because she's still alive by the end of the film, but they come out, and then we have the two driver-by people. I think they're the first ones to come across, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So the two random guys see her on the beach, and they get out trying to help her, and they're immediately assaulted by the creature. And I actually like the scene because he just picks up one of them and just throws them. Like he just
Yeah, he kills the shit out of those guys, and they seem like pretty cool guys too.
Yeah, they seem like pretty cool guys. They're coming out to help whoever's out there. And he just picks the first one guy up, throws him against a tree. I was like, damn.
Yeah. He claws the other guy to death. But
oh my God. And then of course he picks the body up and goes somewhere else. So
yeah.
He's like going down I guess he's going down the coastline.
That's like messing with a bear mother and her cubs, and they come in on that one.
Oh, actually, yeah, you
Yeah.
actually were right. A bear and its mate is
Yeah.
the best way to say it.
Well, I guess bears don't care less about their mates, more about their babies. But clearly that's what this is. He's a territorial. He's got he's got like this. He's wanting to mate with her or whatever. That they're not going to say that in this 1955 movie that's
Yeah.
done during Code era. In the Shape of Water, they do touch on that more, like that sort of idea, because that's clearly what the idea is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, they do it more overtly in Humanoids from the Deep too. So
yeah, well, that one is that one is actually Roger Corman like added a lot of those scenes into it, like because there was like directed without those rape scenes, and then he like after it was already shot, he went and shot on himself and added it into the film.
oh Jesus.
Yeah, a lot of the actors and the director they were appalled by it.
Well, we have not discussed that one on the show yet, listeners, but we probably will. It is on our list.
Yeah. But I mean, that has always been out there, and that was like something they did very creatively back in the Code era when they had like a code where they couldn't do certain things, and
Yeah.
and they had to kill characters who were bad, which if a character does something illegal in the film, they have to either go to jail or get killed, which happens in the third one more so than this one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the Joe character he doesn't really do anything illegal, but this but yeah, I mean it's definitely like they do a good job of it. I like the subtlety of it sometimes. The creative writing of trying to get around ideas that are in the film, but
Mhm.
trying to disguise them in a way so you don't know that or like you have to be very, very much like aware of what they're really trying to do.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And noir films of the Code era did it the best, and as well as
Yeah,
horror films. They circumvented all those type of ideals really well, which is why some of them are so damn well regarded. So
yeah. And I mean, it can be frustrating, but it can also be, sometimes it can help with like, it says something blatantly being shown, it kind of like gives you a bit of an imagination about things.
I mean, that was essentially the entire career of Val Lewton's horror output.
Yeah.
Everything was what he did. I think most of what he did was during the Code era, and he had to hide and be very subtle with a lot of his stuff. And his films are still amazing to watch because
Yeah,
there's style to their films. You know.
yeah, and it's something that I think created a lot of the styles because in order to get around not seeing things, they had to come up with very creative ways of not seeing things.
Yeah, and for this film and this film series, it's much more creative the way they handled it, as opposed to something like Humanoids from the Deep.
Yeah, it's trashy, but it's fun. It's not for everyone. It's definitely
It's funny. That's another film, which is surprising. Another aquatic horror film in which I've only ever seen once. I probably will not watch it again until we discuss it for the show.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen it but once either, but it was funny. I was like trying to watch it a second time. It was on, I think maybe Amazon Prime or something, and I put it on, and of course, like some of the neighbors, one of the neighbors showed up at the door while I was watching it, and they could see it's a very graphic. Like, the rape scenes are very graphic in there. It's like I turned it off real quick, and I was like, oh shit, and then forgot. I never went back to watching the rest of it. But
All right. So, what do you think about the design for the creature overall, based on the first film and this film,
yeah.
or just on this film? Because I couldn't tell a real big difference between them. Not like you can in the third movie when he has the whole evolution thing going on.
There is some differences. It is a different suit. It does look different, but it still looks good. I think it looks a little it's a little darker looking, and but it still looks really good in general. I thought it was. I think in the third one they do have the same suit in the first act of the film, but or so.
Well, the thing I like about this film is it looks really good in all the underwater sequences. It looks amazing in the underwater sequences. And that's the one thing about all three films have some amazing underwater sequences in them. If there's nothing else about the films, like the love stories that seem to be shoehorned in these storylines, the underwater sequences and what happens in them are amazing.
Yeah. I think the underwater sequences are really good in this one. I say the first 14 minutes in the Amazon is really good. I like it when he escapes the aquarium, and then it really like the end, and from when he escapes to the end of the film is a lot better than when he's when he's being like, like when he's chained up at the bottom of the pool thing.
So I like the scenes of the underwater when he's chained up. I kind of get bored from the scenes with the other characters as they're trying to do their little love story type.
Yeah, yeah. They even go to the beach one time. They have a beach scene. They go there and he's talks some more stuff to her. She's getting, I guess, impressed or whatever.
So, Dave, is there anything else you want to touch upon on this film?
I think I've covered most of what I wanted to say. I just really wanted to talk about the scenes when the guy like did the poetry and all that.
The scenes I didn't think we were ever going to actually talk about. You want to make sure to talk about them. Okay. So everyone who's listening to the show, what we love to do is we love to rate the movies on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. Where on the spectrum, Dave, do you put Revenge of the Creature?
I'm probably gonna be a little. I'm gonna be a little more generous than I should with this one. I'm gonna put it at a 3.
Okay, so I was gonna do 3 as well. I probably won't be nearly as generous with the third one in the franchise, but me and you both really enjoyed the first one, and so this one has this. We both agree that the second act is pretty slow, but it picks up by the third act, which is a great thing. And I do like the kills.
Yeah,
most of them come in the third act.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the middle act does, like I said before, it does gives some like for the creature itself, it does make you pity the creature,
Yeah.
and it gives him that. And so when he gets out, it's more of a cheering thing. If all these people coming to see him, and now he's escaped, and it's like, you better run.
It's the same feeling I had watching King Kong when King Kong escapes his chains and goes on a rampage to New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, like, not you did mention King Kong before, but this is like King Kong. The third act of King Kong is pretty much that idea. So it's not exactly that creative even for 1955. But King Kong was 1935, I believe, or something like
33.
that. 33, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to thank you, Dave, for joining me on this conversation about Revenge of the Creature, celebrating its 70th anniversary this year. So I hope everyone who's listening will go out and check out the film. Not only that, but also check out our podcast on the film itself. I think it's an amazing trilogy to begin with. And if you've never seen the film, you might as well check it out because I think it's worth it. Not only that, I want you to make sure to check out all of our previous episodes. We hit our 150th episode not that long ago, and we want you to know that we have plenty of episodes out there for you to enjoy at your leisure. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, I want you to make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast on your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. Also, don't forget to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which delves deep into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. That is on our Patreon supported page only, so you do have to be a follower or subscriber to have access to that podcast. I want you to have a great day, and from all of us here at Conversations in Horror, keep watching the waters for those monsters. Have a good day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.